This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. And I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hoes.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle, the bensettle.com podcast. So this episode and the next episode, which I believe are episodes 92 and 93.
Correct.
If I have that right. We're almost to 2 years in this show. I'm going to talk about the principles within my villains book, which is called Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic and Influential Villains, which I believe, and I said this last time, I really don't know how to, like, what constitutes a quote, and I'm doing air quotes, your bestseller, okay, on Amazon, but it does sell pretty well. It's always ranked pretty good from what I can tell. So I'm just going to call it a bestseller, Jonathan. If someone has a problem with that, well, they can go
listen to another show.
Yeah, they can go cry to someone. It's fine. It's no big deal to me. I kind of like it. I like troll tears. Troll tears are my favorite. Like I like to drink troll tears. And especially on my 10-mile walks. It's very refreshing. So, now, okay. So there are a lot of people who are listening to this who have read this book. So to them, it's going to be like, okay, nothing new. But it might serve as a good refresher. Who knows? Maybe I'll hit on some points that I didn't talk about in the book. I mean, I'm not going to give the whole book away here in these talks. I'm just going to go over the basics of them. And people can either check the book out or not. It's not really going to, that $2.93 Kindle sale is not really going to affect my lifestyle, whether you buy it or not. Okay, it's not. But it will affect yours quite a bit if you actually read it and use it. Now, Jonathan, I don't know if have you gone? I've never asked you. Have you read the Villains book? I can't remember if you have or not.
Dude, when that book came out, I read it. You sent it to us email player subscribers, I believe, where I ended up with a copy somehow. Yeah. But I was working with all these guys, and every freaking podcast was villain this, villain that, villain this. Dan Meredith, Doberman Dan, Igor, everybody villain. I'm like, come on, people, please.
Well, they are my copycats. Look, all due respect to all of the people you name. I respect them all. I like them all. I don't know if it's mutual, but no, I've been friends with Doberman Dan for many years. Igor's a great guy, but yeah, these guys and Dan Meredith, these guys need to knock off copying me, but that's okay. If you're going to copy, you copy the best. Okay. It's I'm saying I'm the best. I'm just going to say I'm better than all of them. They have pedestalized me. Now, this is one of the things we're going to talk about, by the way. Let's see. It'll be in this episode. No, I'm not going to get into it now, but basically when you copy somebody like that, you are putting them on a pedestal. You're saying they're better than you without me having to say it.
And you're not saying it right now. Yeah, I gotcha.
I'm happy. I am happy to accept the spot on their pedestals. Okay, because everyone's a villain suddenly, right? Well, that's why I've claimed this. I'm pretty sure I've claimed the position in our market with this because I'm the first to do it. And I have a series of these. But by the way, just because I have not only a sequel coming out, but then I have a third one will come out to round out the trilogy. And then I have a whole series of other villain books using that brand.
Wow.
For other things. So I'm just getting started on these things. And while they go around acting like they're villains and all that, the reality is they're acting like heroes. They're reacting to me. See, here's the difference between a villain. I think I talked about this in one of the episodes of these. The difference basically between the villain and the hero. And, the villain has a side of their story too. Sometimes they're evil and all that, and sometimes they're not really evil and all that. But the difference is the heroes react to the villains. Villains do not react to heroes. Villains are proactive and heroes are reactive. So if somebody's copying me, especially on this topic, of which is ironic of all irony, that means they're reacting to me. So they're actually heroes, not villains. And now I don't know what Dan's up to, but he did ask me, he wants to do some related book. Now, I don't know if he's trying to use the villain. I didn't ask him this. I talked to him about it, but I know he wants to write a book kind of like about using negative emotions and all that, which I thought was a great idea. I don't think he's going to use the word villain. I hope not, because he wants me to write the intro for it. And, I cannot bless something that is reacting to me. So we'll see. I'm calling him out on the air. Dan's great. He's got a lot of interesting insights into things. So whatever his book is, I'm sure it'll be great. And, I'm sure I'll enjoy writing the intro for it. But yeah, so that's an example of putting someone on a pedestal is when you're reacting to them, you're copying them. And so I say this for people who like to swipe ads. I say it for people who like to use concepts that, just because. I'm not saying, well, maybe somebody came up with the idea at the same time. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, if you did it because you saw someone doing it, that means you are reacting to them and they're the villain in you. And you're basically playing tennis with me. And I'm the better tennis player. And I'm making you chase balls around the court, tiring yourself out while I'm positioned in a way where I don't get tired and I'm just toying with you. That's the whole mindset my villains book gives people. And again, if somebody wants to read it, just go to villainsbook.com. I'll probably get a new URL for that because I'm going to have more than one book. So it'll probably be like Villains Books or something. I don't know. But whatever it is, for now, that's the URL. All right. So before I start going through the first 5, because there's 10 things in this book. So we're going to cover the first 5 today and then the next 5 next week. Before we do this, I want to read a testimonial I got from it. Now it's gotten, at the time of this recording, I think we're at 94 reviews and I didn't ask for a single one of them.
Nice.
You know, a lot of people, Jonathan, they'll sit there, leave a review. I don't care if people, in fact, I almost discourage people from leaving reviews because most reviews are horse crap. Most are empty. They just, I like the color of the book, or they're complete trolls, or they're just, you know what I mean? Like to me, Amazon reviews, I don't go put any stock in them. So I don't really care if people leave them, but people leave them on their own. They do it because they actually learned from it and they enjoyed it and they liked it. And so they're leaving me great reviews. So in those cases, I like those reviews, like unprompted reviews. I like those. So one of them, now this wasn't a review that I don't think is on Amazon, but it was sent to me directly from Richard Armstrong. Now, Richard Armstrong is one of the single greatest copywriters on the planet. For anyone who doesn't know who he is, he's been doing this for a long time. I remember he had this one control ad that was just it's so genius. It was, "What in the world is wrong with me?" was the headline. And then there was like a list of symptoms under that, which I guarantee you anyone reading that had at least one of those symptoms, which means you had to read the stupid Magalog. And I believe that was a very long-running control for him, actually. And I know Gary Bencivenga used it as an example in his $5,000 course. It's really good. But I guess he read it, and he said, "I've been overdue in telling you how much I enjoyed your Villains book. Really great stuff. A lot of wisdom packed into about 30 minutes of reading." And that's true, by the way. It's not a long read. "My only regret is that I didn't get a chance to read it when I was 25 instead of 65. I might have made more money in my life and gotten more dates when I was single, too." And, I don't know. When you get a testimonial from a guy like Richard Armstrong, I think it should be pedestalized. No, but you should take it seriously. Like, that's my whole point. This is someone who's at the top of his game in his industry, one of the best out there, and even he liked it. So if it's good enough for Richard Armstrong, it should be good enough for everyone listening. Listen, in my humble but accurate opinion. That said, we'll start with the first 5. And again, I'm not going to get super detailed on these. If you want, the real gold is in the book. So if you can't spend $3 on a book, I don't know what to tell you. You probably shouldn't even be in business. Or $9 on the hard copy, whatever. So the first thing in there, and this I structured these chapters very strategically, and I did it with the second book too, where they all kind of build on each other. They're not just randomly in there. And this first one is kind of like it's the foundation of all the other ones. Like without this one, none of the other ones really work. I mean, they might work, in a vacuum, but not nearly as well as if you have this in place. And so the first chapter is called "A Villain Without a Mission is Like a Man Without Testicles." And I don't know, Jonathan. I mean, if someone doesn't have a mission in life, and a mission is just like something that this is what you are doing. This is what you're focused on. This is what you want to achieve, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be business related. It could be becoming the best guitar player in the world. It could be founding a church. It could be doing anything. It could be founding a nonprofit. It could be learning any other instrument. It could be becoming one of the great athletes. It could be getting on the Olympic team. Okay, but for most of the people listening to this, it's probably going to be business related. For me, for many years, my mission was to have a kind of business where I basically have a 10-minute workday. And I achieved it. Now I'm working on a new mission, which is, I'm creating all these novels and stuff. These are all little mini missions, but they're all They're all missions in and of themselves. If you don't have a mission to work on, you really are kind of like a eunuch. You're you have all these, and this is for girls and men. By the way, the books are definitely for guys. It's male self-improvement, but some of these things can definitely be successfully used by women. Some of them cannot. In fact, some of them, and I've gotten letters about this, actually replies like, Ben, this book, I mean, it's made me very, more successful, but it's not helping my dating life at all.
I grew some testicles.
Because it'll help a guy's dating life. Yeah, I mean, exactly. If a girl reads it and they get a mission, they become successful. That's not what going to, in of itself make them attractive to guys. Not the kind of guys they probably want, at least. Kind of the weaker guys who want to latch onto a girl and have that girl pay for everything and basically dominate them. Kind of like big city millennials. I'm thinking of here. They might like, but I don't know if the girls would like them.
Right.
But
they hate them.
So they have to be careful. Well, what happens is if they apply this villain's book and they kind of paint themselves into a corner, because now it prices them out of the dating market basically, because they're more successful than most of the guys they normally would be hitting on them. They're like, shit. They don't want. Do they really want to be with a guy that they're more successful? Some girls do, and then granted. And success is, of course, very subjective, too. What's important to one person is not to the other. So I'm not saying it's not going to help girls. I'm just saying it's for a guy. And that's the first one, is have a mission. No mission and nothing. What are you doing with your life? I mean, really. Having a mission gets rid of neediness and a lot of other stuff we're going to talk about just by default. I mean, do you really care? Let's say you have a mission, Jonathan. Let's say you were a single Turk, young Turk, 20-something Turk. And you have a mission in life, and you're out there chasing tail or whatever on a Friday night. Do you really care if someone like a girl rejects you? No, you're going to go home and work on your mission regardless if she goes out with you or not. That's my whole point. You put that on the pedestal. You don't put other people on the pedestal. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But the first thing is to get a mission. And by the way, if you don't have a mission, and you'll know when you have a mission, because you'll go to bed thinking about it. You'll wake up thinking about it. You don't need anyone to motivate you. You don't need a stupid accountability group or any of that crap. You'll just know what you need to do. And if anything, you're going to keep people accountable to you in your life, or they're going to have to get out of your way. It's a wholly different thing. So if you have to wonder if you found your mission, you probably don't have it. But so it is. I mean, that's unfortunately, that's how it works. Man without a mission is like man without testicles. I had a point there. I don't remember what it was.
Something
other
good.
than that, but so be it. All right. So the next step, the next chapter is annihilate your neediness. Now, having a mission will do that because you suddenly just don't care about what other people think. You don't need them. You can use people and all that. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they might have something you could use, but you don't need them. You start realizing your worth. You start realizing there's less supply of you than there are the supply of people who have what you want or who want what you have. And suddenly it just reverses everything. And, there's a lot of neediness tells. I just wrote about this in the July 2018 Email Players newsletter, which I think is in some ways page for page the most valuable issue I ever wrote, because it talked about, how much marketing is full of neediness. And most people even who don't think they are needy are. And you just if you understand the tells, you will understand that it is repulsing people. There are people that they'll still buy from you, but there's so many people that would buy from you who aren't if you weren't needy in your emails and your copy. And you see it all the time. All these stupid tricks people play and all that is pure neediness. Or when they sit there and apologize for sending too many emails, pure neediness. It's like, what are you apologizing for? They should be apologizing to me for not reading them all, as far as I'm concerned. And so the book, I go through a ton of neediness tells that guys tend to have, whether it be not all just the obvious stuff too. A lot of little things that people don't realize. Like, for example, let's say you have something going on and you're waiting for someone to get back to you and you're real excited about it. Well, if you're checking your phone and emails every 2 minutes, you're needy. You should be focused on your mission and not even care. Like, for example, there's a lot of guys that like in the dating world like this, where they get a girl's number and then they text her and she doesn't text back for like 2 days, and they get really needy about it. And they start they hold a council with their friends about what does this mean and all this. It's like, why do you care? You should be working on your mission. You should have forgotten about her, quite frankly. And if anything, you might have left your phone across at the other side of the house and completely forgot you even sent her a text at all. That's how you know you're not needy. But if you're sitting there checking and looking, that's neediness. That's one of many examples, and it applies to business in even more ways. So that's chapter 2, annihilate your neediness. Chapter 3 is selfishly pay yourself first. Now, this is an old school, Jonathan, financial, nothing new about it. There's really nothing new about any of this stuff, actually. But, you pay yourself first. The first 10% of every dollar really should go towards you.
Only
before
10?
you pay anybody else. What?
Only 10%?
Well, I'm just saying a minimum of 10%.
All right.
I do a lot more than that. But a minimum. Now, we're talking about people who may be on a budget. They're not multimillionaires like you, Jonathan. Okay, they don't just have money coming out of their ears. But
They don't have a 10-minute workday yet.
They don't have the 10-minute work. They don't have any of that. They're trying to figure this out. But this will do more to get their finances in order. And this is ancient. This goes back to even ancient societies who understood this. But it's not just with money too. There's another way you want to pay yourself first that I talk about in the book that has nothing to do with money, but will make you 10 times, 1,000 times more money than you're making now if you start paying yourself at first. And I'll let you read the book for that. But basically I think that's page 20, at least in the print book, and somewhere around them, but you'll see it under the selfishly pay yourself first chapter.
Boom.
So I'm not giving it all away for free here.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
I like that little cliffhanger.
I'm not going to be a villainous hoe, or I just give it away. All right. I'm not doing it. So, the chapter 4 is secure your screw you fund. Now, this is something that should be common sense to all of us. I had to learn it. I learned it because I back in 2002, one of the first major info product I bought about copywriting. When I say major, like anything other than a $12 book, this one actually cost money, was John Carlton's Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets of a Marketing Rebel, which I still say is one of the best copywriting products out there. If it's still for sale, I don't even know if it is. But it's interesting because he talks about, as a freelancer at least, you should have a screw you fund of at least 6 months to a year put aside. And if that and not invested in anything more risky than a bank CD. It almost better if it's under your mattress, right? Or buried out in the backyard or something in a safe. The thing is, if you never touch this money, your savings for 6 months to a year, if you never touch it, it's done its job. It's not there to ever spend. It's there to give you a psychological edge over it. And when you're negotiating, it gets rid of all your neediness. You don't need that sale. You don't need that client. You don't need that job because you have 6 months to a year set aside. It can change a lot of things. It's a very powerful thing. Aside from the copywriting stuff I learned from guys like him, that is very powerful. And, I have a whole chapter about that and how you go about that and everything. And that is chapter 4. Now, finally, chapter 5 is, and we talked about this a little earlier, is ruthlessly knock people off their pedestals. Jonathan, if you put someone on a pedestal, the only way they can look at you is down upon you.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. This is why these guys copying and all that. I don't mean to keep picking on those guys, your other podcasters, but I don't mean to pick on them. I really, they're all great people. They're probably just running with an idea. No big deal. But if you copy people, if you pedestalize people in any way, you're basically telling them, and not saying it verbally, but this is what happens. You're saying you're higher value than me. Now, if people think they're higher value than you, guess how they're going to treat you? Like you have less value than them. And it's not like they do it out of meanness. They're not doing it consciously. Somebody told me this. Oh, God, who was it? They just emailed me this the other day saying that I guess he knew Gary Halbert personally, I think. And he was like, Gary Halbert, and this is interesting. And for anyone who knew Gary, you would know better than me. I never met the guy. I can only commune with his ghost, as we talked about in my Mount Rushmore series. But he apparently, the more successful someone was, the more like crap he would treat them. Or the more he would just ignore them. Maybe not treat them like crap, but yeah, he would basically not pedestalize anybody. And the less successful someone was, probably the more nicer he would be. And I think there's so much wisdom in that. And I'm not saying be mean to successful people. I'm just saying don't treat them like they're any better than you, because they're not. They might be better than you at that thing they do, but they're not better than you. And if you sit there and kiss their ass and worship them, I'm telling you, you're not going to get what you want from them.
Yeah,
it becomes a needy thing, and neediness, Jonathan, is like catfish bait. It really is. I don't know if you've ever smelled catfish bait down there in the Florida bayous or wherever, but basically, it's the stinkiest thing that has ever been created by mankind. It's like you could put it this way. Let's say you have a closet in your house full of high-end expensive shoes and jackets, jewelry. You have your jewelry in there. It's very, it's like $1 million closet. And I go in there and I smear a little catfish bait in that closet and close the door. Nobody's going in there. Okay. That's what neediness does. It doesn't matter how great you are at whatever you do. If you're needy, it's like catfish bait. It'll scare people away from you in droves. So anyway, so knock people off their pedestals. You don't have to put up with that crap. So those are the first 5 chapters. Next week, we'll go over the next 5. And Jonathan, do you have anything you want to add before we sign off? Because we're going over 20 minutes now, which is a little bit longer than I like to do.
Yeah, I guess the only thing left to say is go to villainsbook.com to get yourself a copy. And we'll be back in your earbuds with part 2 next time.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Well, off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.